Laura.
Hi, Laura Broadhead. I'm an assistant field manager in the Reading field office, and I supervise.
Thanks, Laura. Carol.
Carol Fall, Trinity County Collaborative, North Lake resident, Fire Safe Council, Fire Department, whatever.
Thanks, Carol. A new face for everybody, Dylan.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm the Environmental Compliance Program Manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District.
Cool, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan, for joining today.
Thank you,
With
Dylan.
last minute notice yesterday.
No worries.
Jennifer.
Good morning, Jennifer Mata, Field Manager, Reading BLM.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Amanda Berger with Ascend Wilderness Experience.
And we have Monique just trying to hop on there just in case we have any other technical difficulties on this end.
The backup.
It's our backup plan.
Consider.
Okay, we're ready.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. So we are going to start here with an agenda check. So we've sent the agenda out. So hopefully you've had a chance to look it over. Is there anything we missed or you would like to add or adjust or move around? Pat has his hand up.
So just to make sure we cover the status of the letter that we approved at our last meeting that went to the collaborative at their last meeting to see if it's making its way through the system.
Very good.
I will report on that.
Okay. Carol has her hand up.
Yeah, I think I emailed you guys. One of the things I'd like to discuss would be the establishment of a mini trails committee for the North Lake. You know, after we had our North Trinity Communities Risk Reduction field trip, that was one of the items that we talked about setting up.
Very good. Okay, anything else? Not seeing any. We'll move on to the collective memory / minutes. Any questions or edits or comments relative to the meeting minutes from our July meeting?
Jim and I just noticed that the action items that are listed for the July 12th meeting were actually carryovers from the previous meeting,
Yeah.
which we addressed during that meeting and slipped past us for this round of minutes.
Okay, looks like we're all happy with the minutes. We'll move on to our kind of follow-up items from the prior meeting. So I think it was Pete that had requested that we try to get Caltrans here to discuss kind of the Stewart's Fork Bridge and Highway 3 turning lanes at Minersville. Did we get a chance to?
I was unable to connect with the proper individuals to discuss that with. So I wasn't able to get them scheduled for discussion today, but I have some good leads and we'll hopefully be able to have somebody on for the next meeting.
Very good. Okay, up next. So this is one I put on there, having kind of read through the minutes and tried to reflect on the discussion we had at our last meeting. So those of you that were present at the last meeting probably recall the discussion about Stewart's Fork and the repair of the boat ramp. I think Pete was the one that was advocating for that supposedly there's $70,000 somewhere, right, Pete?
That could be, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I do also recall that Carol was suggesting that maybe we move in a different direction and maybe look at a day use management change. Those seem to be in conflict to me. They seem to be kind of going in maybe different directions. I don't know. I just thought maybe it would be good to kind of bring that back to you all and kind of see what kind of direction we want to head there, or just give Sarah some guidance. But Sarah, do you have any kind of recollections of kind of, and are those conflicting, or are those kind of symbiotic, or are they, in polar opposites, or fixing it versus kind of changing the whole management to a day use? I suspect we wouldn't want to fix it if we were going to go with a day use, correct? Or maybe, or do you
So
need a boat ramp if
I
it's?
think one thing that the Stewart's Fork boat ramp usage, and forgive me, I'm not as versed in the history of this one as I am Minersville. There's been discussion about switching that from all boats to kind of like kayaks and personal vehicle
Correct, yeah.
kind of usage. And then there's also the discussion of the day use area. And I unfortunately have not had time to dive into the grant because I believe there were some sideboards with that grant in terms of how it could be used for what kind of usage on that boat ramp. And I failed to follow up on that regard. So my apologies for that.
Yeah, Sarah, originally that was for repair because of the undermining of the ramp. That's 70,000.
And certainly at the Forest Service, I have heard the concern that we've repaired it, it gets undermined, we repaired it, gets undermined, just because of the geomorphology of that site and the way the water hits it. So we're certainly concerned about the sustainability of any repairs that we make. And if there are alternatives that are going to be more sustainable with the geomorphology, it'd be great to get those on the table too, and be thinking about that as we think about how to move forward here. So
Yeah, the reason I brought it up is the fact that the work's been done out there on the bridge, all that large rock and fortifying the bridge abutment, and exactly what they've still got a lot more rock to put out there, it appears, because it's stockpiled out there on the turn.
Carol has her hand up.
Yeah, just a couple points. So, so I used to work with Graham Matthews and Associates, who was the hydrologist who did the sediment transport studies, into Trinity Lake. And so he had documented that huge deposit. There's been several slides on East Fork, Stewart's Fork there. And so in order to divert the channel away from the boat ramp, you'd have to do a huge sediment removal project to take out that delta where all that slide material has been deposited. And so Sarah's right, the geomorphology just doesn't lend itself to, a permanent repair of that boat ramp. It's just, unless you move the channel, it's going to continuously be undercut, even if you take all the rocks and put gabions underneath it. And, and likewise, the lake has to be pretty far up and for that ramp to be usable. It's one of the last ones to become usable. So that's why I suggested that it be converted to a day use area. Sarah's also right in that we were told at one point that we could not use that grant for non-motorized, facilitating non-motorized use. But I think we could check back with DBOW and say, look, here's the condition. Right now it's used a lot by kayakers, people just pushing their, John boat, fishing boats off, when the lake is up. And so could we, use some of that money to convert it to more of a, non-motorized boat use? And the third point is it really got used this spring when the water was up, because it is the closest access point to the lake from Weaverville. People come up and they put their canopies along the edge of the lake there, and they go swimming, and they, all that kind of stuff. So it was used a ton as a day use area. People can drive down there. You're allowed under the Forest Service transport management plan to drive your truck or car on the lake bottom, and that's what people do. They drive down the boat ramp, they take a right turn, and they drive down the side of the lake, and put their canopy up, and get their coolers out and have a blast. So it would seem, but Forest Service derived zero income from that because people didn't have to pay a boat use fee. So if they had to pay a day use fee, that would be an income source. So that's my pitch. That's what I have to say.
And
And-
even
and
the
so
people
again-
who, even the people who are launching boats when the ramp is up high, most likely are not paying the boat ramp day use fee.
Because it was officially closed.
It says it's closed, so people think they can use it for free.
Yeah, Ross, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate, when we did a study years ago, that the lake is real shallow there. And a usable boat ramp would have to go miles down to get into deep water. So it's not really a practical place for a boat ramp, I think. Do you remember the discussion that we had?
No, it was just repair.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it was.
well,
you wouldn't
the
expect.
geomorphology, boy, I thought I knew everything and I learned something every time. But I don't think that it's a viable boat ramp because it'd have to be extended too long to get to when the lake is at low levels, to get,
It wouldn't be for low water.
yeah.
All they were proposing to do was take, like Pete said, they were proposing to install rock gabions underneath the concrete slabs to support the concrete slabs. They weren't proposing to extend the boat ramp at all. They were only proposing to put rock in those wire baskets underneath the slab where it hangs out over the creek. And that's where that's all they were proposing to do, which, had to require a Corps of Engineers permit. Cindy Lucetti was working on the Corps of Engineers permit and all that kind of stuff. And then it just got, put to a lower priority.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it isn't practical for a boat ramp, that a day use program would be much better off in there.
So I'm thinking I'm hearing consensus here with the rec committee that maybe moving in the day use direction would be preferable over a repair of, are there any advocates here of the repair option? So
Not unless we get a guarantee that the lake's gonna be full every year.
there you go. I think that's above our pay grade.
Yeah, I think,
I mean, it already has the bathroom there and everything, so.
Yeah, I think it's a good.
In the parking lot, yeah.
I think it's a good option. Should we kind of formalize that into a recommendation to Sarah from the rec committee?
bring it to the collaborative next week.
We'd have to make a recommendation to the full collaborative, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
But sounds like we're there.
I
Okay.
am.
I'm there.
Very good.
Yep.
We will agendize that. Kelly? Make a modification to the agenda I sent you. Yes, Kelly.
And I think we should, as part of that, it should be requesting that DBAL, give Forest Service permission to use those funds, that were directed for repair to, whatever things that would need to be done to the boat ramp to, accommodate, non-motorized, boats. It might be taking that last big slab off that's hanging out over the creek, just to make it safer. Anyway, I think I don't want to let go of the grant totally.
So I have a question for Sarah or Ben. So what is the process of changing the use of a Forest Service site?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a heavy sigh.
I got a feeling it's just not a right,
No.
writing a little memo.
We haven't created many new day use sites.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of like, we have the ones we have and then we convert them in and out of day use and out camping, but like, we're gonna make this into a day use site is not something I've taken on with the Forest Service, but I think it's likely achievable since we've clearly done it a bunch, but I just don't know the process and we haven't done it recently. So that's a good question.
So will you look into that,
We'll
Sarah?
look into it.
You'll look into it? Give us maybe a report?
Yep.
He'll look into it?
I know the transition.
Cool.
Yep.
So is next meeting too soon or?
I'll have an idea of what that looks like by next Friday.
Great.
Oh, awesome. Wow. I was thinking next meeting, but that's even better. Yeah, next Friday. Cool. Okay,
I know where Brenda sits, so.
If,
very good.
if we're agendizing and drafting a recommendation, is that recommendation to go to the, as usual, go to the Board of Supervisors and being recommended by the Board of Supervisors, or is this just internal from the collaborative? As a recommendation from the collaborative to the Forest Service?
Well, I
Let's-
guess, does the Forest Service, would you need a letter from the Board of Supervisors to kind of pursue this, or would, a request from the collaborative be kind of a consensus thing?
Not sure on that. I will get all the finer details from Brenda Tracy when I speak with her early next week to prepare for next Friday's meeting.
Okay, so we will agendize it, but we don't necessarily need to have that draft letter done for next week's meeting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, let me get
No.
the details on the process and what we need and then the way forward.
Okay, does that work for everybody?
I think it's important to have the discussion with the full collaborative.
Right.
Before we go forward to
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
a letter.
All right, anything else? Good discussion. Hopefully we could kind of maybe get some agreement on that one and move in a unified direction. So it sounds like we achieved that. Okay. Up next, just wanted to see if I think there was something in the journal on this, but Kelly, you want to give us an update on the Trinity River
Yeah.
watershed acquisition?
Yeah, in lieu of anybody from the Watershed Center being here today, I can report that the transaction and act of acquiring 11,000 acres of previously Michigan Cal timberlands in the Upper Trinity River watershed, mostly north of the intersection with the IP road or the Parks Creek Road and Highway 3 has gone through. And that was mostly accomplished, as I understand it, with funding both from the federal government and the state government, and facilitated through the Pacific Land Trust. So with that, most of the Upper Trinity River watershed now is either being held by the U.S. Forest Service or now the Watershed Research and Training Center. And my understanding is that they will be creating a new entity for land holdings such as that. So it's not directly, it's kind of, I don't know if it's going to be a 501c3 type of situation, or if it's going to be a limited liability corporation to hold those properties. That is yet to be determined, I think. But as of right now, it's in the name of the Watershed Research and Training Center. Cool.
I have a question about that. I mean, one of the North Lake, residents' kind of concerns in the past about these kind of land acquisitions has been that it takes it out of the tax base. But I'm assuming if the Watershed Center still owns it in some form, that they would have to pay taxes. I mean, it would be kind of low because I'm assuming TPZ, but do you guys know if they'd still be paying property taxes?
That is correct. It's still considered private property. It's still considered, they would have to go through a fairly significant and long transition to change it out of, you know, the TPZ designation, timber production zone designation. So, so that is accurate. It's still being taxed at that same rate. And I don't foresee that changing it in any way because technically they're not, you know, a state or federal agency. As a 501c3 nonprofit, it is retained as private lands still.
But I'd be curious to know, I mean, it's TP, if it is TPZ, actually, I think it is.
It is.
So the rate, the tax rate is really low, but the property value, I'm sure, is higher now than it was when the sellers bought the property from Timber Products. And so it could be that we actually, the county actually gets a little bit more money because the value that the rate is calculated on might be greater.
I
It's
would
just
think
good
that
to have the Watershed Center give us a presentation at some point.
Agreed. I think your assumption is correct though, because obviously the, you know, the rate of taxation grows a lot slower than probably what the value of the property was, especially given the nature of this transaction. So I will make sure to reach out to Nick specifically and inquire about getting a report out on that. And that might be something that would be worth doing at the full collaborative.
Yeah, definitely.
Has wider ramifications than I'd say recreation specifically. They have plans for rec, but it's more land management at this point. So does that sound agreeable to the group?
Sounds good.
Okay, anything else on that? Any other questions? Yeah, there you go.
That piece of ground west of Highway 3 to Scott Mountain Summit and down to the Tango Blue Access Road. That parcel included in this acquisition?
I know which one you're talking about, but I'm not certain about that.
I think, Kelly, I think that parcel is SPI property.
Yeah, that's my
Part of a
understanding.
different, is part of that different acquisition with the Pacific Crest Trails Association, because there are some SPI parcels that are somewhere in the process of being acquired by the Trust for Public Land to be then transferred to the Forest Service.
Yeah, those parcels are few and far between as far as how far north they are, but I think most of those on that side, you know, the upper Trinity side, like the far north reaches of the upper Trinity headwaters, are segregated, I think, from those few parcels that are in there. But my understanding was that they acquired all the pieces that were along the PCT on the north rim of the county. But then they were also looking to acquire a number of those SPI pieces on that side. And then I think there's a few over in like the Mumbo Basin area as well, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a handful, like it's not very many pieces, but they're not part of that acquisition. This was all strictly Michigan Cal's properties.
I looked pretty hard for a map and never really came up with a good one. I don't know if that could be part of the presentation is like a good map that actually shows the area.
I did find one, Laura. I'll try to find it again and send it to you. And that's why I'm thinking, you know, everything on the map was kind of up east, Parks Creek Road, you know, it was all east of Highway 3. And it is really the drainage of the Trinity River there. But it is totally checkerboarded too.
Okay, anything else on Upper Trinity River watershed acquisition?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is that like the Williamson Act that protects agricultural land?
It's a separate designation. Williamson Act is specific to ag lands.
Yeah.
But timber production zone is I don't know if there's an analog to the Williamson Act for TPZ, but it's considered a separate designation.
So you can't change the usage of the land without going through a big process.
I
You
think,
can't build cabins on it. You can't.
You
there
change
are,
the tax rate. I mean, essentially, if they take it out of TPZ, they forego a tax break. And it's over like a 10-year period that they, because we've had parcels up near us where SPI has taken property out of TPZ with the idea in mind of future residential development, and so their property tax rate is slowly coming up to something like just vacant land versus timber.
yeah, the first step of that is going into open space.
Yeah.
That's the first designation change, but it is it's like a 10-year process.
Yeah.
So it'll take, it would, I mean, and I don't know that that's necessarily something that they really want to do. I think that they want to actively manage it as, you know, as timberlands to a certain extent, but with the idea that is to do restoration work, like wet meadow restoration work, you know, beaver dam analog, installations, road work, et cetera, and then tie that in with work that then can also be accomplished on Forest Service lands in that same area.
Okay, anything else? Any more questions? Okay, looks like we're good to go on that one. Let me see, I think this is where we're gonna add the letter to the Board of Supervisors regarding the RAC
Yeah,
appointments. You wanna give us an update on that, Kelly?
the quick and short of it is that the changes are made, and I've made contact with Heidi Carpenter Harris about getting that onto the Board of Supervisors agenda, but that has not yet been accomplished. I'm hoping to finalize that within the next week.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Up next, we'll do, well, let's take on Carol's agenda item there that we're gonna add. So Carol, you had wanted to have a discussion on establishment of a kind of a trail subcommittee for the North Lake area?
Yeah, so when we did the field trip with the Forest Service for the North Trinity Lakes Community Risk Reduction Project, the Highway 3 project, trails are part of that. Small trails, you know, easy trails. Sarah will correct me if I'm saying that wrong. And so, sorry, I'm at the fire station. During the field trip, we talked to Callan about allowing some opportunity for the North Lake residents to sorry, fire department radio. Because the North Lake residents are looking at trails that some of them would leave from Trinity Center. The kids up there at the school have a mountain bike club, but there's no place for them to bike from the school. So we had suggested to Callan that maybe one would be going from the Trinity Center boat ramp to a scenic overlook somewhere along the lake. There's other parents that want to put one down along Swift Creek. But at the same time, the Watershed Center is working on, I guess, some direction from the Forest Service to go from Clark Springs north, which that would be great, but it wouldn't help boost any kind of mountain biking opportunities in Trinity Center. So anyway, there's just all these different ideas of where trails should go in the North Lake that might be able to incorporate them into the Highway 3 project. So Callan had suggested that we come up with like a mini committee with the Watershed Center, Mike McFadden, whoever else from the Forest Service, and some North Lake residents, the high school, the elementary school, and kind of brainstorm what trails would be maybe included in the risk reduction project. Am I saying that right, Sarah? Can we do that?
I think that would be beneficial, and I just want to clarify one point, if I may. The Forest Service has not directed the Watershed Center to look in any particular way. What we have been saying to the Watershed Center is, if you would like us to consider particular segments, get us as much data about those segments as you can. And so they have had volunteers out like GPSing and flagging what their proposed segments would be, but that offer would go to any stakeholder at this point. It's really about how much data can we get in to the process in a relatively short period of time. So we're looking for the Watershed Center to get everything to us by the middle of November so that we can incorporate that into our draft EA. And a big filter for this is going to be Section 106 and archaeology. So if there is really complex heritage resources associated with a segment of trail, we likely wouldn't include it, just because that would uniquely contribute to the timeline. But I think, as you said, where there's easier segments, if they're nearby Trinity Center, great. If they're not, like, I love the idea of bringing people together to vision out what this could look like. And then also take the time to check that with Pete Schmidt and our heritage folks about what's realistic.
I guess the problem has been that the Watershed Center has never asked people up here where they would like to have trails. They're just kind of off doing their own thing, which they do great stuff, but it's like, could you ask the local community, like, where you think you would maybe like to have trails? So, because they've been presenting it like the Forest Service is kind of like directing us to do this. So they're kind of misleading people. Anyway, so how would we go, the best way to go about kind of coming up with this mini committee on trails?
Are you?
Well, I'd like to talk, we're interested in incorporating that into the trail around the lake. And as of now, our proposal ends on the Stewart's Fork launch ramp, and how it goes through Trinity Center is, I'd like it to go past all the businesses in Trinity Center where some money can be spent. But we're looking for input from you and the Watershed Center too. And when we were out touring the baseball park or whatever they call it,
the ballpark.
Yeah, alluded to the fact they might include a trail in that part of the thing. At least they asked where the trail. So we're looking for input from the Trinity Center residents about where they want the trails. And some of them can and some of them can't be. But wherever possible, we'd like to be incorporated in the trail around the lake in the big picture.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
totally. I'm assuming Trinity Trail Alliance is like, totally, you guys are the linchpin here on how we get a lot of this done. So, the input's critical, but yeah. So anyway, I'm just trying to convey that the people up here are feeling like, our requests, we've talked to the RAC in the past about, all the funding that goes to Weaverville Community Forest Trails and Hayfork, Ewing Reservoir Trails, but nothing up here. And, we have the kids essentially, parents are thinking of building user-built trails, and I'm trying to discourage them from doing that, like wait till the Forest Service kind of comes up with a trail. So anyway, I'm back to my question. How do we, what's the best way to set up this like little impromptu, because I understand from Sarah, we need to get it done quickly, little impromptu get together.
So Carol, yeah, I guess my question on that would be, the subcommittee would suggest to me that there would need to be kind of a host, or a sponsor organization, right? So what did you have in mind? Is that like a collaborative kind of subcommittee structure, or is that more tied to TTA? I mean, who would you think would be the most appropriate entity to kind of sponsor? Because with any subcommittee formation, someone's gonna have to take the lead on that, right? And gotta do the networking and kind of build that committee out and then call meetings and get dates on the calendar and all that. So Pat, you had your hand up.
Well, the Trinity Center Community Services District actually has recreation as one of its authorities. So
Sure,
if nobody else were to do that, certainly we could probably host the meetings and that sort of thing.
Okay.
It shouldn't need a lot of meetings. I mean, it
No.
should be fairly slam bam, get it done.
Maybe a field trip or something, but.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable, Carol, to have the Community Services District kind of sponsor that subcommittee and kind of formulate meetings and call meetings and kind of reach out to the participants, all that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
That needs more stuff to do.
Sure. All right, Pat, just add it to your list.
Yeah, I'll probably go to the assistant fire chief or something,
Okay.
and get some help.
Right.
Just another hat. Who? What the heck?
Our fire chief, actually Dwight, our fire chief, is one of the parents who is, been dragging his kids all over to the mountain bike races. And so he is definitely wants to be on the committee.
I think it would be nice if we could say it's been at least endorsed by this recreation committee to kind of pull in our partners.
Any disagreement with that?
No, we're all for it. As far as the direction of the lake going through Trinity Center, we've never determined that. We did, so we're happy to hear from where you guys want it.
Cool.
This would not be an easy trail. This would be a long-term thing, but a trail that goes from, you could go from Preacher Meadow Campground to the Trinity Center boat ramp by going on Forest Service land.
There's a lot of
a
lot of SPI in there, and they expressed no interest in the trails going across their property at all.
Well, but there's a section where the Forest Service properties meet. You just have to go right on that corner of that section.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for local knowledge.
All right, let's circle back a little bit to Pat's, suggestion here that the rec committee maybe have agreement, consensus that this is a good,
that's
a good direction to head, and that the committee is in support of the Trinity Center Community Services District taking this on and kind of establishing the subcommittee and kind of being the host organization. I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding. Any opposition to that concept? Not seeing that, so let it be written, so let it be done. As you would say. Very good. All right, thank you, Carol, for bringing that up. Okay. Back to our agenda. I think we are at BLM updates. So Laura, I see you're with us. Is Jennifer with us? Oh, there she is. Very good. Hey, Jennifer, you want to give us an update?
Actually, I'll let Laura start and then I'll fill in.
Great. All right, Laura, you're up.
Yeah, so the first thing at the last meeting I was at, I offered to do a presentation about our resource management plan that I was hoping would be signed by this meeting. We are slightly delayed only by like a month, which in the grand scheme of EISs and RMPs, I think is not too bad of a record. So we're looking to sign here in the next few weeks. And then, yeah, so basically I deferred, speaking with the facilitators, deferred till we have a signed rod, so I don't have to use all wishy-washy words. So yeah, next meeting, hopefully I'll have something, a little PowerPoint, not too much info, but enough to give you a basis with our new RMP.
Do we want to do that here at the rec committee, or do we want to do that at the full collaborative? Is my question.
I'll throw that to Jennifer.
So I think that they would be two different presentations.
Okay.
I guess we would need to figure that out. If we're gonna do it here, it would be, you know, obviously focused on kind of recreation. If we want to do it at the collaborative, then we'll need to focus it on, like maybe kind of narrow it to a few different topics and then focus it that way. Because we could spend quite some time covering a much broader, so you guys kind of tell me what you want to do. If you want to start with rec and then we can take something separate to the collaborative, it would be helpful if I could have my planner back from his detail at the state office. Maybe before we do the full collaborative presentation. And I
That
think
sounds great.
a month or so for that, so.
That's great. I knew that it was broad, so I just wanted to inquire about how we should structure that. So
Yep.
thank you. I think that sounds like a good plan, Jim.
So was the delay, are the delays because of protests?
Yes, the delay is in the protest process, but
Okay.
not because we got really super substantial, just because it is a headquarters driven process.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, a few other things. I have spoke about this before, I think, but we finally were able to get the agreement executed with DOR/TRRP. They got some bipartisan infrastructure law, resilient recreation funding, that they're throwing our way to work, do some work on our Trinity campgrounds, use sites to do some upgrades like bathrooms, hazard tree work, some redoing of Steiner Flat Campground, which is still on the docket for this year, actually. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about any of our maybe river campgrounds or day use sites, I'm happy to talk about that. The other thing is fishing guide season is kicking off. This is actually, as summer recreation kind of goes down, our fishing guide season drastically increases, and we see a lot of use in all of our Trinity River websites. So that's always good to see. We have a full complement of 100 permits this year. Last year we had like 97. Full 100 this year, and a few on the wait list. So interesting to see kind of over the years how that demand kind of goes.
Hey Laura,
yeah.
we froze.
Oh,
It may take a minute to get back up, but I could connect you to the speaker so you can finish your updates.
Okay, cool.
Heck.
Oh, it is coming back on.
Are you there still? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Maybe instead I can. Oh, we're back.
Okay, where did you last hear me?
Fishing guides, yeah.
Fishing guide.
Okay, I was like, maybe they did have questions about Steiner Flat. Okay, good. Yeah, fishing guide season, we have a full complement of 100 guides this year. We had 97 last year. So yeah, a lot of permits. It's good to see that use out there in rec sites on the Trinity. One kind of update, we did, you guys might remember, we went through our business plan process to increase our fees, and including Steel Bridge, Junction City, Steiner Flat, and Douglas City campgrounds. And we're at the end of the campground season here, starting to see the returns on those fees. I don't have the exact numbers, but I know our admin officer was joking that he feels like he's carrying a lot more cash now when he goes to the bank. So I'm pretty excited to see the kind of at the end of the year, we'll run the numbers. Campground fee, how much we get is like how much we're charging. Obviously, we doubled the fees in some places or tripled in others. So, I mean, only to $15, huge, but we should see increases. But a lot of times, fee compliance has a really big impact on how much money we actually bring in, and that has to do with kind of the personality of the campground host more than anything. So anyways, we'll see what happens, but I'll get you guys these numbers maybe at the next meeting. Yeah, and then we're hosting a National Public Lands Day event in the Weaverville Community Forest. That's September 28th, so the last day of September, last weekend of September. And co-hosting that with the RCD. Yeah, it should be a fun event. It's better than most National Public Lands Day events that are just picking up trash. This one is actually like a natural resource project to try to reduce conifer encroachment on some of our oak woodlands that are there. So basically anywhere where it's a full oak overstory and there's little conifers coming up, we're going to give people loppers and tell them to go for it. So trying to be a little proactive rather than having to deal with large trees. So yeah, should be a really cool event. Honestly, probably some trash. That's Public Lands Day. So yeah, really excited about that. If you have any more questions, let me know and I can get you more info. And then the last thing I actually had on my list is actually a question. And maybe for the Forest Service people in the room, but
hi Ron, this is for Susan, this is Diana.
Oh, sorry. I was curious about if anyone has ever had any experience entering into a state lands commission lease for a dock.
Could you
lost what you were saying, Laura?
At the end there, Laura.
So it's a state lands commission lease for a dock or boat ramp. And I just didn't know if anyone had had any experience to do that at any states before. I don't think it's a thing in the Trinity watershed. It might be a thing. It is a thing in Sacramento watershed, but I just was gonna broadly ask if anyone had ever heard or had any experience doing one of these leases.
I can't speak to boat ramps, but we're actually entering into an agreement to do fields reduction on state lands commission land here in the basin. And it's been quite a process. It's taken a number of years to get that. I mean, we're almost across the finish line, and that's just to get general access to do specific treatments, fields reduction treatments within their lands. So they've been great to work with. It's just slow going.
Okay. Okay.
So,
well, if you guys ever hear of anyone who is doing these for, apparently, so the State Lands Commission has the school sections, right? But then they also have like sovereign land under all the waterways. So that's all by the state. And so
I can ask around, Laura. I know of some people who, if anyone would have that experience, they would, so I'll ask.
Okay, awesome, thanks. Okay, I think that is all I had.
Right, thank you very much, Laura. Any questions for Laura before we go back to Jennifer? Not seeing any, Jennifer, so do you have something else for us?
I don't think so, not related to recreation. So we're, like I said, fingers crossed that we'll be finished with the RMP at the end of this month, which is a huge accomplishment. I know y'all are probably as tired as I am of talking about the RMP. So we're really excited to be hopefully finished with it and we can move forward and actually start implementing some of the decisions that we've been making about what we want to do with land management for the next 20 years. So, but I think that's it. If you guys have anything else for BLM, let us know.
Very good.
Carol did post that map in the chat.
Yeah, Carol has posted the map in the chat for the Upper Trinity River watershed acquisition area for those who were looking for that. So thank you, Carol. All right, again, thank you, Jennifer and Laura. Appreciate that report. Up next, we have the Forest Service report. So 6 rivers, do we have?
I haven't seen Jim today.
Nope.
I know that Jim, if he were here, would share his National Public Lands Day event. I
Okay.
have a flyer, so I'm just gonna drop it in the chat.
Okay.
It's their annual roof lake cleanup. They have t-shirts.
Oh, nice.
Nice, yeah.
Cool. Okay, thanks. All right, so how about Shasta T?
Sure, I'll let Monique and Mr. Thorne go first, and I'll just fill in the blanks at the end with a few things if they don't capture it.
Great. All right.
Starter, I can
Go ahead.
cover, obviously the big news with the trail work around the lake, that had been discussed. I know Carol, with discussions I've had with Mike McFadden, over the years, that we're really excited about this opportunity, to involve more groups and, those communities, including Trinity Center, and connecting those campgrounds. I don't have the details, I'm a worker bee, but from my understanding from the emails I've seen, believe information needed to get to Ben by May for a transition. So the department leads are working on getting their priorities listed in so that we can all be on the same page. I would expect around May might be a time that we're putting sort of boots on the ground, or for next season at least. So any of the concerns with data that Watershed may be gathering, it as to sort of back up what Sarah was saying, that we're looking at all options. And this is really a good time to start that subcommittee meeting. I'd love to attend those, because this definitely will be a project for a very long time. And for myself, I see this as, oh, this is a great career opportunity for myself. So I'm personally looking to be invested into this, this planning and operations of helping tie those communities together. And personally, with the WCF meetings I've attended, I brought up grant funding and opportunities, desires, at least for ADA trail access. So that would be included, something that we will be looking into around the lake and around Trinity Center specifically. And yeah, just really excited. Was going over the email from the new trail supervisor, Aaron McBride. That early numbers are showing that this year, maybe despite what you saw on Long Canyon, we covered more miles than ever before, with that work from partner groups, and agencies like Amanda with Ascend. We have also started, this was the second year we've worked with the Smart Workforce Center here in town, and have been able to put together a 15-person trail crew on top of the 2 CCC backcountry crews we had this year, as well as all the other work going on with RCD here in the basin and Watershed Center efforts. So yeah, really excited about connecting with folks over in Trinity Center around lake there, and to include Lewiston as a possibility. There's lots of work to be done everywhere.
So I am curious though, just again, having spent a little time on Long Canyon.
Yeah.
How is trails maintenance prioritized, you know, from trail to trail? Is it kind of usage? Is the data regarding usage kind of driving kind of where some of that trails maintenance goes? Or how is that all sorted out in terms of on an annual basis, which trails are determined, yeah, we need to go there versus?
I think, yeah, I would say generally speaking, it's based off of the usage.
Okay.
So we are lucky in this district to have the Trinity Alps. That's a major priority area for us, but with lower staffing levels. Last year, for example, we needed to get down to the South Fork.
Oh.
And do some work down there, in which case we partnered up with Watershed Center, Smart Center, and got some work done over there. So a lot of times we're getting emails directly if it's a smaller project. It usually will come to myself. and at least we put it on the docket. For example, I think a pretty quick turnaround, we had some folks from the Bigfoot Trail Alliance hiking around Tule Creek outside Hayfork. And so I probably got that information about 3 weeks ago. And now we're starting that log out with the folks that are coming back, as we're now at a seasonal change. Folks are coming out of the backcountry, and now we're getting boots on our front country location.
Is there like an annual maintenance plan developed each year that identifies kind of the focus areas? And is that made available to the public at large? So they kind of have a sense of the trails that are gonna kind of get opened up and cleared?
Yeah, for a long time, it's been based on sort of this word of mouth, funding levels, personnel. And so we were really lucky. This year, we've started we've got Cameron Lehman, who's been helping us with GIS, so that we are creating an app to put the information in when we get work done.
Yep.
And then that provides a timestamp. So instead of me always going to Mike McFadden, that has a wealth of knowledge, he knows every trail and every year that it's been worked on. But there is a plan of whether or not we have the funding and the personnel.
Go forward with it.
Go with it.
Yeah.
And as soon as we were lucky that we were able to hire some permanent seasonals and increase our recreational staff. And now some things are changing, and I am looking to see what that's gonna look like with our next fiscal year.
Cool.
So. But definitely creating more of those partnerships, that's really coming in handy.
Good.
I'm sure there is a management plan that says every year or every other year we'll get to certain trails. Obviously, our highest usage trails do have an annual checkup at least. But with the winters that we've been having, we might have a large blowout, say over at China Gulch, where the CCC crew are doing some rock work. That takes a long time, takes a lot of bodies, and that takes away from what the original plan was for annual maintenance. So, but we do try, and if there is a specific need, because I know Long Canyon, I was last out there personally, I think 3 years ago. Working from the trailhead up to the meadow at the end, and
it's the lower portion mainly.
Yeah. And I haven't been out there in a few years, but definitely, we had even discussed it in the WCF meeting before. I know we're looking to have maybe a QR code at a trailhead to where folks can send in a report.
Oh, cool.
Maybe if we can revive that discussion.
Yep.
I think that's very helpful.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was just a matter of who gets all of those reports, where do they go to, and how does that get disseminated? So, but yeah, if we can standardize that, I think that would be helpful, and we finally have more folks like Monique who know how the technology works, and can make it very easy for us at least to gather the information, and that's a lot of the struggle right now.
Yeah, because even when you go get the permit, it'd be nice to, if even the office there had some kind of update in terms of what trails have been maintained, which ones haven't been,
And I know this year, I started, if you go into the front office with Lillian, I've started tracing our lines. We have a map in our trails office in the back.
Yep.
But obviously that needs to be presented at the front.
Yep.
So I know I've been asking for funding to get a smart TV, for example. That is something that we can go in, trace a line on a map using Cameron's app nowadays. And you'd be able to say, okay, we completed that this year, it's time stamped. Or you had a question about Long Canyon, you click on it and it'd say, hey, Robbie wasn't there in 3 years.
Right.
Maybe we need to get back out there.
Cool. Thanks. Monique, anything?
Just something minor. We also have a National Public Lands Day event over on the South Fork. I don't think anyone in this room lives over on the South Fork currently, But if you know people in that area, it's probably a little bit far of a drive, if you're in Weaverville, but we will be doing a trash pickup over on, Post Mountain. I could post that in the chat, and then, I also posted the Bruce Lake event, in the chat as well, because I know that, Jim would have wanted to make this meeting to post that, but I'm sure, yeah.
Is the one that's in Post Mountain, that's the one that's you're doing with the Watershed Center?
Yeah, the Watershed Center has funding from CDFW to clean up dump sites on National Forest System lands, and so got a lot of funding for that, and a lot of resources as well. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, they inquired with us about whether we could contribute to that. We're looking into that also.
Yeah, that would be great. But also I love the Weaverville Community Forest event. I think that's a unique one, so that's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, I wish I could make all of them.
Your lumber party, huh?
All the events on the same day.
There you go.
And then the other thing, I recently got tapped with just checking out a webinar that I thought was a funding opportunity. It was titled Recreation Economy for Rural Communities, and it was advertised as a funding opportunity. But once I attended the webinar, I realized that it was actually an opportunity to have facilitated discussions with a contractor provided by the EPA, to have a steering committee to build a rural community recreation economy. I think the discussions are facilitated for a year. Applications close mid-October for that, but we kind of have that in the community. This is kind of that in addition to the Weaverville Community Forest steering committee as well, but just bringing it up because it is another opportunity for that, but.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, thank you.
Ben, anything?
Yeah, just a few things to add. The North Fork Coffee Creek Bridge replacement, that NEPA was signed. The ball is back in Federal Highways Court. They have a bridge design, a contractor lined up. So they're gonna spend those millions of dollars for that bridge replacement, and work should begin summer or late summer of 2025 to replace that bridge, which will give access to that north end of the Trinity Alps and to the Pacific Crest Trail.
Now, when you say replace, I was just out there and the steel, structure is still there. It's just the plank. So is it?
The whole bridge replacement. So they'll remove the old bridge.
Wow, why is that? It looks like
a brand new bridge.
looks like that structure is still intact. I mean,
It's not serviceable or usable. It's a hazard, and eventually it'll just fall into the creek.
okay. Well, that's a big
so-
job.
We were able to rush the NEPA through, so we wouldn't overstep the funding deadline. So we got that NEPA done and signed, and Federal Highways has the ball now. And looking at the work, really looking forward to seeing the final product late next year, hopefully.
And so Hodges Cabin, what is the status of Hodges Cabin?
I will need to look into that.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
You know, Monique?
Oh, gosh,
I hear it.
I don't wanna.
It's not burned,
Mike McFadden knows.
Okay.
But the replacement of that bridge is pretty cool. That bridge is pretty beat up after the river complex fire ran through there. So really looking forward to seeing that work Federal Highways and their contractors will be able to accomplish next year. And then give access to that north end of the Trinity Alps and into the PCT. So pretty cool.
I'm sorry, where is this specific?
So if you go up towards Coffee Creek and then down Coffee Creek Road, there's the North Fork Coffee Creek trailhead there.
Oh,
And as you go up the trailhead, there's a bridge that crosses the creek.
okay,
Before Hodges Cabin.
right.
You really need to have a bridge there to cross it safely. So Federal Highways came to us, said they had a couple $1 million to spend for bridge replacement.
Wow.
And then we kind of lost track of that deadline, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, that deadline's here. we pushed the NEPA through, got it signed, and so now the ball's back in their court and they're running with it, so.
Yeah.
All wilderness issues have been taken care of, so more than likely that new bridge will be pre-built and then helicoptered in via long line, set on the concrete foundation and bolted in and good to go.
Wow.
So, cause
All metal, you think, or with a?
I think it's just almost gonna be like in kind. So I'm sure steel, metal structure with wood planks and stuff like that, yeah, yep.
All right.
So pretty cool.
Was there? Yeah.
Thorne kind of alluded to it with fiscal year 25 coming up. We are getting close to the federal fiscal year end for us, which is end of September. New fiscal year starts October 1st. This only pertains to the Forest Service. We've received direction from the Washington office and the regional office now as of 2 days ago. We will not be hiring temporary workforce outside of fire in fiscal year 25. So that is our 1039s. Luckily, our rec staff, the vast majority of them were able to convert to PSEs, permanent seasonal or permanent full-time employee status. But looking into the future, the relationships with our partners and volunteer organizations will be real key to get a lot of our work done in the wilderness and around trail work. Thankful we have those strong relationships here on the west side of the forest. And we rely heavily on those partners that do a lot of our work. It'll just increase the workload on our permanent staff a little bit more to supervise and provide that oversight. So unfortunate news, but yeah, somehow we got to this scenario, and this is where we are today. So overall, the seasonal workforce, the 1039 workforce on the west side was not that big, so it shouldn't really have too much impact on the west side. I won't speak to Sarah's unit, she could touch on that, but that might come into play where it might stress our system a little bit more when we start our official transition. Well, we have started our official transition from the Shasta Lake administering the Trinity and Lewiston Lake NRA. That's going to transition to the TRMU May 2025. Sarah and I have set up a committee to run through any kind of hurdle issue that we may come across. And that committee will identify those hurdles and provide Sarah and I options to get across those hurdles, so that when that transition becomes final and in May of 2025, it'll be a smooth, seamless transition, and we will have knocked out and resolved any of those issues that we have identified. So a lot more to come on that. Hopefully all of you have heard about that transition taking place. I think it'll just smooth the lines of communication on who calls who for updates. And it's just, a lot easier access for our staff on the west side to manage that piece of the ground. So I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. And the report.
Thank you very much, Ben. Any questions for Ben? Not seeing any. Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit about the temp hiring piece for the National Recreation Area. I don't see that affecting our larger scale projects like our North Trinity County risk reduction project or even Trinity Camp, since that NEPA is signed. Where we will see the impact for us is going to be on our smaller scale projects or recreation projects or special uses where we did rely more on seasonals to assist with survey work. My unit is one person deep across most of the specialties. And so if they're not having that support from temps, it's going to be just added time on all those factors. So that's that piece of the puzzle. On to some better news. The NEPA for the trail has been signed.
Wow.
So that is done.
Yeah. Right before I died.
It is before you died. So it can be the Ross Molyneux Trail, not the Ross Molyneux Memorial Trail.
There we go. It's not done yet.
It's not done yet. Well, yeah. And so as part of this, as we've discussed, this Caltrans piece of the puzzle is still a factor. There is still a need for an encroachment permit. We do not have engineering capacity on the forest. So that is where we will need partners with the Trinity Trail Alliance or the Watershed Center to help us with that encroachment permit piece, especially the engineering component. If we can get fundraising or a consultant or something to assist, that is going to be critical for us to be able to move forward. But my hope is that by having the environmental review and the NEPA signed, that can go into that permit application as, yep, they've done all the environmental. That box is checked, that is done. And so that is no longer the roadblock here. We now move on to other conversations. And I think that that is a really nice thing to be able to center our conversations around going forward.
But I believe at the last meeting, Sarah, there was a discussion about the potential to have engineering kind of farmed out as you have with some of the fuels, some of the other kind of mission areas. Has there been any internal discussion relative to that concept and whether that's kind of something the Forest Service can pursue? Because I don't know that that's been something the Forest Service has relied much on, right? In terms of, it's been kind of in-house, the engineering workload.
To some extent, we do a lot of contracts for engineering design.
Okay.
So that's something that we regularly do, but we haven't worked much with like agreements for engineering design. I think that's certainly worth exploring as part of our next step here. And I think this would make sense as a feasible kind of size and scale of project to have those kind of conversations and start down a path of working with our partners more on engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then last but not least, North Trinity County, we will be going out to scope with that soon. We're in the process of drafting and reviewing the scoping letter to go out. Once that happens, there will be a public field trip, so open to all members of the public. So we just did the collaborative field trip. Next will be a public field trip. There will likely be another tribal field trip. And then we will move on to considering public comment, any revisions of the proposed action, drafting the EA. So all good stuff. That's what I have for this. The next stuff is all my stuff too. Do you want me to just move into it?
Well, this is pause.
Miners Bill.
Yeah. Questions there for Sarah, just on what she's presented. Not seeing any. Very good. All right, you're up. Minersville.
Right, Minersville.
Yeah.
So I believe where I said we were last month was working through the changes that were requested at the public meeting to make sure that our engineering design was reflective of what the public was interested in. So we are still working through that process. The engineering firm has made some of those changes. We have a meeting set up with the Division of Boating and Waterways, the Forest Service, and the engineering firm next week to go through all the changes to the design and make sure that they are in alignment with the feedback from the public meeting. So just bringing all the people to the table to do a check and make sure that we are looking at, we have a big long list of public comments. We're going to look at that big long list again and go through it and make sure that our design is reflective before we officially check the box on the 60% design and move into a 90% design. So I think appreciate all the participation at the public meeting. It was well worth our while to do that public engagement because we certainly would not want to be in a place where we were finished with the design and then having to go back. So good thing to do and appreciate all the engagement on that over the years. That's what I got there.
I do have a question. When we had that last meeting, you had mentioned that with the potential consideration of having low water parking off of the ramp, not way up top, that DBOW was potentially going to require you to do, or there to be a CEQA involved with that. And we were to have sorry, I didn't necessarily follow up on that, but is that still the case? Like, is that something that we should be having a conversation about?
Yes, it is something we should be having a conversation about, and it is not DBOW, it's the Water Quality Control Board.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the bases upon which they rejected the boat launch last time, and their team that's been looking through the files says, since we put that in our letter last time, that's one reason why you were rejected. You do have to check this box now so that we can in good faith say that you did what we asked you to do. To do CEQA, but we don't have any tools in-house to complete CEQA. Like, we're not a CEQA lead agency, we're a federal agency. So we'd definitely be looking for a partner.
So we're interested in following that up, and we are a CEQA lead agency, and our new environmental compliance program managers specializes in CEQA and has a lot of experience working with water control boards. So I think we'd be well positioned to assist in that way. So I think we can have a conversation about that online, or offline, but we'd like to follow that thread.
Dylan's got a question, I believe. Dylan, do you have your hand up? Okay, I'm sorry.
He was just saying and we talked a little bit about this as a program. So
very good. Okay. Anything else for
Pat? I have a question.
Pat has his hand raised.
Since you're both here. So where the trail leaves the Park Springs launch ramp, trail comes into the other end of the parking lot toward the 5 miles of existing trail. So the new part, I had staked it a long time ago. I wanted to include it all in that first NEPA, but years ago, I don't know how long ago I staked it, but the Mill Creek fire station right there, right? They went down and they said they saw my stakes, my pins, and brushed it and made a trail that they used for BP. They run on and they cut off. They did it for a training thing, trainer. And so that mile of trail is in. So what do you think we should do? Do we just say it's in or user built or whatever? But once they brushed it, I said with Mike McFadden, and I said, I think there's a road here. And yes, there was in fact an old wagon road. You can tell which one's the wagon roads. There's no rise or fall. So, and so there is a nice trail already made. So what do we do? Do we leave that out? It's an existing trail. And it goes all the way to Mill Creek. And we have no intention of going near the road or very dangerous road and a dangerous bridge there. And Mike McFadden just said wet crossing or something. We could cross that creek. But so for that mile of trail, what do you think?
Is that mile of trail going north from the fire station?
It's going north from the launch ramp.
Okay.
The road to the launch ramp.
So it goes north, not the trail that's already existing going south?
No.
No.
Okay. Oh.
No, it's a 1 mile extension to that trail.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we wanted to discuss in this mini trail committee, because you'd have to build a bridge across Mule Creek. And I agree, you don't want to get on Highway 3 right there, because that hairpin turn, that's really where you don't want to have bikes on that bridge. So how do you cross the creek?
Well, Mike McFadden at the time said wet crossing, but I'm not going to be the trail builder. And so I'd leave it up to them, but that right up to the creek and from across the creek and beyond can be a different thing. But I mean, that trail is just there. And
But Ross, from there you go up. How are you going to go across Ridgeville? Because that's all private property. I mean, there's just a lot of questions.
Not the first 100 feet of elevation above the high water line of the lake is all NRA property.
So you're going to go all the way around Ridgeville Peninsula and avoid
It's not going to be a straight line thing. It's not a freeway. It's a trail through the woods.
But, okay, so I think this is all stuff we need to talk about at the mini trail committee, because you've got all those private landowners on Ridgeville. You know, they own the ridge, so yeah, you'd have to go.
They own the ridge.
You'd have to go the whole way around the Ridgeville Peninsula.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a trail through the woods.
Well, I think we're going to take Carol's suggestion, Ross, and you can bring that one to this newly formed subcommittee.
No, I'm
right?
not dealing with them. They're gonna deal with I'm not gonna go back over anything. We're gonna deal with the Trinity Center area and the rest of it all. It's fine. What I learned about in the first of the 7 real estate classes I took in college was that you don't have much control over property that you don't own. And just because they own the top of the ridge, doesn't mean they own that piece right at the water line. The NRA owns that or runs that or manages that, you know. And so, and we're not gonna obstruct anybody's view making a trail, and we're not gonna deal with them and give them any kind of power at all.
Well,
Very good.
I'm not saying I'm just saying that's a big peninsula to go all the way around if you're biking.
It's not a freeway. We're not trying to get to Trinity Center. That's not, you know, it's a trail through the woods. We got 50 miles of trail in the Weaver Basin right here. They don't go anyplace. Just go through the woods.
Yeah, I think the new trail going north would be good to loop into this committee that's going to work on it, the North Trinity County Risk Reduction Project. Because the trail going south from Clark Springs is covered by that NEPA, so the one going north is not covered underneath NEPA right now.
Right.
Right, and we're just talking about that first mile of the trail.
Yeah, so I think it'd be a good one to loop into the North Trinity County project.
I took them out there this week and walked it with them, you know. But
Watershed Center.
I think it's kind of like existing trail. You just don't have to do NEPA or anything on it, but that's why I'm asking you.
If it's going to ever be on a Forest Service map, it has to have NEPA. We won't put unauthorized trails on our maps. So that would be important for that purpose.
But the Forest Service built it.
Yep.
Some people like to work in the gray too much, and yeah. And I realize, you know, around Mule Creek, there's not, I mean, you have the trail going south from the boat ramp at Clark Springs. Really nothing going north unless you cross the highway and go up that road, Rainier.
Oh, yeah.
You go for your PT run. So yeah, I know it's a good thinking the fire module did with that trail, but like Sarah said, in order to put it on a map and identify it for possibly.
All right. Well,
I think it'd tie in nicely underneath.
They were going to include it. There was only one switchback they had to improve, you know.
Great.
Okay, I think we are gonna circle back. Pat, did you have a question on the Minersville? I'm not sure where we were.
I think I did. So
Okay.
I'm just curious from Sarah, whether part of the issue with the Water Quality Control Board was compensating treatment, stormwater treatment for the below the low water parking. Wasn't that part of the issue?
Yes, that is part of the issue. And I would say it is not resolved, but we are working on identifying potential compensation that
I've got some ideas. So we can talk at another time, but I've got some ideas.
Ideas are welcome.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. I think we're done with Minersville, Sarah. All right. So let's go to the Trinity Camps update.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Hayward Flat is the first timber sales part of this. The bid opening for Hayward Flat is on September 26th of this year, so we will see if we get bids on that. So our plan going forward with Trinity Camps is to have that. We went and redid the mark a little bit to lighten the touch. The intent going forward is Hayward Flat first, and also the pieces around the Trinity Center Airport first. And then subsequent to that, we would have a pause and a check-in on Hayward Flat and how that implementation went. And based on that, move forward into Tannery and the other sites that are part of the Trinity Camps decision, which was also signed, by the way. It was signed. I don't know if I've announced that yet.
There you go.
It was signed.
Yeah.
Yay.
Cool.
We pivoted right into implementation. Discussing that it was actually complete. I got a little excited there, but I think good. Really appreciate the ongoing conversations about that, and I would say just keep it coming, and we will keep making those adjustments. I've said this before, but we are not out to harm our relationship with the collaborative or harm our trust in any way, and we are trying to move forward with this in a way that is taking the input as we go and making adjustments and making it better, because we want to have sustainable campgrounds going into the future.
So with the 9/26 bid opening date, does it suggest then that implementation is what? Is there winter ops approved or not, or is that gonna go up? October? Oh, cool. Right.
October is a distinct possibility.
Great.
Yeah.
Very good. Any questions for Sarah on Trinity Camps? Right, not seeing any.
There was a comment about a couple comments in the chat that were go backs from Laura and Amanda about the PUD's RAP project going out for public comment on 11/4, November 4th. And there are some potential rec impacts. So we'll have more to probably review on that. Amanda reports out that the PUD board meeting yesterday that the EIS draft was will be released on 11/8 for the RAP project. And with a public workshop at the Weaverville Library on December 10th to discuss and ask questions from the public. So,
and that's the power line clearing.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. But according to Laura, there may be some impacts to recreation through that EIS.
If anyone wants to ask more questions about that, I don't know if like some of you probably know, but I'm on the PUD board, so I'm very familiar with the project. But I'd also be curious to hear what the rec impacts could be. So, but I'm available if anybody ever wanted to talk to me about it or ask questions now.
So that will be on next week's agenda for the collaborative full meeting by request by one of the collaborative members. So there will be a brief discussion, but given that the document isn't coming out till November, I suggest there might not be a lot of depth to that conversation, but I think some members just wanted, again, an awareness to get that information out and make sure other members are aware that it is coming. Yeah.
Great. Is Paul going to be there to talk about it?
He will not. No, he
will not.
He wanted to wait until the document's actually out. And then people had a chance to review it, read it, and then he felt like that would be a more productive discussion and Q&A for him, to actually have people have read it and have some real questions based on real information.
I'd be interested in joining that meeting next week.
Sure.
Or waiting until a more appropriate time, but just to be a fly on the wall, if anything.
I'll make sure that you're on the mailing list when we get out the agenda.
Yeah, he is agreeable to coming to the November meeting, right? Is that our next one?
Yes.
Yeah. So that, the November meeting will be like a week after that release. So.
Perfect. Okay.
Good
Thank you.
Good time. Yep. Okay. I think we're done with Trinity Camps.
Wait, Carol has her hand up.
Oh, there's Carol. Okay.
Yeah, just before you move on to Bowerman Barn, I wanted to do a quick go back on marinas, just boat ramps, just to let you Sarah know. So I had several complaints from fishermen about the Shasta Wreck pulling the courtesy dock at Bowerman Boat Ramp. You know, the boat ramp technically is usable down to 45 feet below crest. It just hit that today, but they pulled the boat ramp, the courtesy dock, sometime like 8 or 10 days ago. So they kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So if people are still using that ramp, it's still perfectly usable. So anyway, I just wanted to pass along that comment that I had received that, people weren't happy they pulled the courtesy dock early. That's it.
Thank you, Carol. I'll be sure and follow up on that.
Park Springs was pulled early too.
Huh.
I think it was pulled at 31 feet. It's good to 45.
Okay.
But the marina is still in at Trinity Center and people are still loving that. So thank you.
Very good.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Okay, that does bring us to Bowerman Barn updates. Carol, do you have anything for us on that, or anybody else?
No, I was just going to ask Sarah. So last time the contract to hire the engineer was into grants, and is there any progress on that?
Yeah, Pete is actually working on it today. He's working through questions and comments with the contracting officer. It should be about 2 weeks, 2 weeks away from going out to bid.
Okay. And that's to hire the engineer to do the foundation engineering design.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else on Bowerman Barn?
No, I haven't checked to see if the bats are there recently.
Okay. All right, that brings us to partner updates. And Amanda, you are up first.
Hey, so I guess I talked to you guys kind of right after we started kicking off our season. And then July is when we have a ton of stuff going on, so lots more to report. And also, we still have a lot to do still. So so far to date, the program days that we've completed is 57, and we have yet 30 more yet to come. So in total, it'll be about 87 program days. We've had about 820 volunteer hours on the trails this summer so far, and we have still about that much left to do. Most of our stewardship trips are actually still coming up. So we just did a ton of work, but it was a lot of our youth trips that don't all include stewardship and volunteer hours. We did about 553 youth user days already this year and have a handful more left to do. We've had 21 volunteers in our programs yet this summer and still about 20 more to go. So in total, it'll be about 40 volunteers in our programs this summer. Adult volunteers, I should say, because we have youth volunteers as well doing this trail stewardship and things like that. Let's see, we have also, in addition to those numbers, that doesn't even include the time we're going to be collaborating with the Watershed Center. They got funding for the East Weaver Lake Trail, the whole stretch between East Weaver Campground up to Weaver Bolly. Send has already spent, this will be the third summer in a row that we've put attention on that trail, but we've been starting from the top of the trail. And we're going to continue doing some more of that work on the top of the trail. So we've actually been scheduling with Rise Academy to get their students on the trail with us. That will happen in October. So that's great, just to get more teens on the trails and doing volunteer hours for their accreditation of school and the requirements they have, and just the work and life experience. So they're going to help us rebench the trail going up to the saddle before you go over down to East Weaver Lake and brush the sections of that trail. And we collaborated with College of the Redwoods earlier this year on the new river trails. And we also collaborated with Scott River Watershed Council as well as Watershed Center for a teen youth place-based environmental trip where they did stewardship, but then also had a lot of professionals coming in and teaching environmental science. So that's kind of a very brief nutshell, but yet to come is still, we've got 2 7-day backcountry trips. We had, that one's in collaboration with the Bigfoot Trail, and it's going to be working in the river complex fire footprint. This trip, when the Bigfoot Trail first advertised it, got like 17 volunteers signing up within the first few days of it being advertised. So that's why it's turning into 2 different trips. And through the course of the season, as we've been identifying, risks, we have initially wanted to go to Rush Creek Lakes, but the damage from the fire just creates too many risks for hazard trees where the camp would be. And it's not quite stock accessible yet, although that's what our crews help do when it's as bad as it is. It actually kind of takes a crew to go in there first before you go in there with a volunteer crew to even get stock in there to help support a trip like that. So we have decided to, and this is in conjunction with our Klamath partners and Eric Flights here on the Shasta Tees, we're going to go to Long Gulch Lake and spike out there for 7 days with the group. And then the second group will be working from Boulder Creek up to Lyons and Foster's Lake. So that's great because we also had our teen crew in at Boulder Lakes this year that worked up to Boulder Creek. And they did an amazing job this year. That teen crew did 55 logouts just around the Boulder Lake areas. So this adult crew can now continue the work where the teens got to. So that's exciting. Like I said, we still have a day hike with the Rise Academy teens up on Weaver Bali. We also are still to be scheduling a day hike to Lake Eleanor to do a lot of brushing between Lake Eleanor and Shimmy. Earlier this year, we were able to get an adult volunteer crew that went all the way up to Shimmy and then worked their way down and did all the logouts. And now we're going to go back and do the brush work. If anybody wants to join us, we don't have a date set for that yet, but I can send it out to this group when we do. And I mean, we're scheduling it at this point as a staff day, and we'll have a handful of people go, but we'll put it out there and people are welcome to join us. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Like in terms of the stewardship and the amount of days we have left, we're only halfway through our season just because we still have 30 more program days before the end of October. Oh, we also have a weekend scheduled, and this is a public trip where it's a car camping weekend, October 19th and 20th. The trails we haven't identified yet because we're just waiting to hear from Eric where he wants to put us, but it'll be car camping. So it'll be either probably base camped at an established campground like the Trinity River Campground or something like that, and maybe work the Tangle Blue Trail or Bear Lake, something that's just accessible as a couple different day hikes. Yeah, we're still in the thick of it.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda? Not seeing any. Trinity Trails. Anything?
I think we just done it.
Okay.
I'd just like to say that Ross and I aren't on the board anymore, but we did attend the meeting, and the board is very excited about this project on the lake. It's been one of our projects, listed as one of our projects for the last 8 years. So, just getting it marked and getting something happening is exciting. And so we're collaborating with the Watershed Center and helping provide volunteers for that effort.
Awesome. Very good.
And we're wondering if the RCD, who's been working with us on this trail for many years, is bummed out that they're not being included. The watershed has taken over.
Oh, no, that they have capacity for it, which I think we're a little stretched then with regard to a lot of our rec opportunities at this point, so.
Well, I asked,
Opportunities for everyone, I'm sure.
I asked, plenty to go around, including you, because of our long relationship, that you'd be included.
I appreciate that. And I understand too that you have a new board chair.
Yeah, Patrick Flynn.
Patrick Flynn is, okay. How is Allison tied in with?
Allison is the secretary.
Oh, okay. Because I've been getting some
Notices
from her
Yeah.
about some of this too. So no, we're not feeling excluded.
Okay.
But yeah, glad to be hearing about it. And when we can, we'll be able to partner up. So it's great.
Great. Okay, moving on. I don't believe we have any watershed research and training center folks with us, right?
Nope.
Okay.
It's me. We have been kind of basically getting ready to gear up for our fall season, and we'll be working a fair bit with Robbie and the Forest Service in the Weaverville Community Forest here in the coming months. Our RAC funding has now gone through its whole, I think I reported this out maybe last month because it was right around that time frame. But we do have our RAC in place. We have a little bit to finish out with some Joint Chiefs funding through our stewardship agreement, which is to be done this month. So I don't know if Arvel's talked with you recently, Robbie, about trying to get that spent out. There's a few $1,000 to.
I think he had reached out earlier. Yeah. Trying to draw down every penny that we can.
We were aware of the time constraints on that, on those funds, but so that should be happening. I encourage them to try and get all that stuff squared away. And then I believe I think we finished up putting the roof on the McKinsey Gulch kiosks, so that should be essentially done. And then I wanted to mention too that we had a meeting last week with the Weaverville Community Forest Steering Committee, and we will be having our public meeting, which obviously has a lot to do with rec and the Weaver Basin Trail System. That tentative public meeting is scheduled for October 30th. At this stage, so we think that's probably going to be the date we're going to go with on that. And yeah, like I said, the RAC funding is there. We will be utilizing that as the ground softens up and we move into the winter months. So I think that's the end of my report for now.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly? Not seeing any. Believe we have any other partners with us today? Right. All right, agenda building. Any that we need to put on next meeting's agenda? Is there anything that came up today that I'm missing?
Caltrans, I'll be following up.
Yeah,
with.
Caltrans, so we'll see if we can get them at our next meeting.
And I'll do a rec.
Oh,
RMP.
right.
And the wrap.
Yep. And the
RMP.
RMP, there we go. Yep, thank you. Okay. Anything else on agenda for next meeting? Okay. Very good. Well, I think that is a wrap. Okay.
Next meeting will be November 8th.
November 8th. Good. Thank you all again.
Thanks.
Participation, contribution, yeah.
Yep, for joining us on the Zoom and here in the room.
You bet.
Bye.